Are you a business owner stuck in fear, doubt, and worry about what the marketplace will look like in the future? Then this show is for you. Strap on your seatbelt and get ready to disrupt and innovate. Here's your host, Lisa Levy.
Welcome to another episode of Disrupt and Innovate. I am thrilled to have Greg Smith joining us today as my special guest. He is a collaborator on work that matters with people who care, a lead generation curator, a client retention specialist. Greg is also a facilitator of human experience journeys to help your business grow. Greg believes that while clients truly what we want is significance, clarity of who they are, and the opportunity to have the impact they seek. With the mission to leave the world a better place, Greg is leading the conversation beyond Web 3.0 to Web 3.h, where H is for human. Armed with his experience in founding and selling a successful experiential education business, Greg understands the importance of customer engagement, appreciation, and collaboration. He now leads with Ubuntu, and serves as the membership curator at Send Handwritten. With his expertise in sales, communication, marketing strategy, and leadership development, Greg is here today to share his insights on how to create brightness in uncertain times. Stay tuned for an inspiring and thought-provoking conversation. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Lisa. What a lovely introduction. Thanks.
Oh, absolutely my pleasure. That's the boring read-in, right? I would love for you to share with the audience your story, what you've experienced that brought you to what you're doing today.
Okay. Well, my mum and dad, I won't go all the way back there. For 20 odd years, Lisa, I founded and then ran an experiential education company here in Australia. So I was working with corporates and young adults outdoors expeditioning. So we'd start at point A, and 10 days down the track, there would be point B. And at point B, there would be a big white carrot with 22 seats and a steering wheel. And we would break a group of, year 10 boys. And in Australia, that's 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds. 200 boys might arrive, and we'd break them into groups of about 20. And we'd ask them to facilitate their way with a couple of adults from point A to point B, bushwalking and mountain bike touring and canoe touring and high ropes and abseiling, et cetera, et cetera. And that whole piece of work that I did for all those years was designed, in essence, to answer three questions. First question was, who am I? So as a young adult or as a corporate working in a team, who am I? We get what you do. You're a snotty-nosed 15-year-old bumping and swearing and pushing and kicking and expressing your ego in the best way that you can, but really behind that, who are you? And we use the outdoors to facilitate answers to those questions. The second question that we asked for all those years was, who are we? Now that I'm getting a bit of a sense of who I am, who are we? So if we're going to not kill each other between point A and point B, how are we going to treat each other? What are the behaviors that we need to exhibit? And what is it that we're going to achieve while we're out here on the expedition? Hopefully the answer to that was, safe, healthy, transition from one place to another together, dealing with night and day and up and down and hot and cold and wet and dry and all the things that the outdoors bring. And the third question that we facilitated an answer to was, now what? So a bit of a sense of who we are individually, who we are as a group. What is the legacy now that we would like to leave? When we go back to our workplace or our school or our club or wherever it was, what is the impact that we're choosing to have? When I eventually sold that business, Lisa, I sold it to a large international not-for-profit, Outward Bound. Now, it was Outward Bound Australia. Now, many USA listeners will know Outward Bound US. I'm pretty sure the headquarters is in Colorado. And when I sold the business, I then ended up working with the company for another 5 years. And that was to help the transition. It was a much longer assignment than I thought. But when I left, what I got was that they were getting everything right except for one thing. And my business that I had built for the last 20 odd years was deteriorating. So while they had wonderful governance systems and standard operating procedures and wonderful gear and beautiful young adults working for them that they trained to within an inch of their lives, the customer experience piece, they took their eye off. And so the business eventually deteriorated at the hands of that international not-for-profit and was destroyed in 2020. So that was a really disappointing outcome for me. When I left in 2017, 2018, I got it that customer experience was very, very important. So I started a consultancy called the Masters of Client Retention to answer one question. How do you Velcro your customers to whatever it is that you do? When all else is the same, Lisa, the only defining difference between one accounting firm and the next, or one medical center and the next, or one airline and the next, pick an industry, is the customer experience. So what came out of that was a business that we then called Send Handwritten, where we positioned ourselves in the marketplace to leverage the quietest channel to market, which is the physical mailbox, where you can whisper and still be heard. Now, if it's landfill before you even put it in the mailbox, you don't get heard so well. But if the mail is personalized, it's handwritten, it's wax sealed, it's beautifully designed to interrupt the pattern of thinking of the recipient, now we're talking, and that works. So handwritten, wax sealed, beautifully designed mail to help our clients with lead generation and client retention is where we got to. And here's what happened. We got into the middle of 2022, and I'll speak from an Australian point of view because that's where I am, but I know the experience in the US is similar, maybe with different words. So what we got in the middle of 2022 was that the marketplace, Lisa, which is made up of human beings, and this remains true, the marketplace is anxious because COVID, floods, fires, interest rates, Ukraine, supply chains, you can get staff, but you've got nowhere to accommodate them now. Now it's Israel and, pipelines being blown up and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we turn on the news, I'm sure in America it's amplified, but we turn on the news here and it's deliberately designed, in my opinion, to create fear. So the question becomes, if we are helping our clients build businesses that matter to impact people who care, or people who care building businesses that matter, whichever way you want to express that, how do you do that in a context that's anxious? And I asked my 85-year-old mum, in times gone by, or even now, Mum, things are a bit uncertain. Who do you rely on? And her answer was the big end of town. And here's her answer actually was, well, I go to church to find out the right way to live. I go to the doctor to find out what pills to take. I turn on the news to find out what's true. I put you kids and the grandkids into mainstream educations, and there you get the picture. Lisa, I'm going to ask you a question. Can you name an institution or system of governance on this planet at the moment that you would dedicate your soul to or trust?
Absolutely not.
And there's the problem. And I can't find anybody under the age of about 70 who would tell me, yes, absolutely, I would trust church, media, government, et cetera, et cetera. So we asked ourselves a question, Lisa. We wanted to know for ourselves and for our clients and our prospects what the antidote to that anxiousness was. And what we came up with was that we needed to, as a group of human beings running a business, metaphorically wrap our arms around our clients and nurture them through this poop fight that we're enduring at this point in history. And that's where Ubuntu came from. So Ubuntu is our consulting app. The tagline is Ubuntu, connection with intention. I'm going to tell a little story on myself here that's somewhat embarrassing. The word Ubuntu, with a U in front, means humanity. It means, Lisa, I see you. I recognize you. Lisa, I appreciate the fact that we're investing time today to have this conversation. It's about humanity. And I was on a podcast it's a South African word, and I was on a podcast recently with a guy called Prosper Taravinga, a black South African man. And he said, Greg, I love your work. My man, you're up to something clever. You're up to something that matters. And I went, yeah, thanks, Prosper, I know. And he said, do you know what the word Ubuntu means? And I had to stop. It was a jolt because I thought we were just being too clever with our marketing and taking the U off the front of the word and used a 5-letter version, Ubuntu. And he said, no, Ubuntu means people. And I did not know that. So naughty me for not doing that level of homework, even when we named our own business. So it was both embarrassing and delightful at the same time. I'm glad it didn't mean backside or, left ear or something or other.
So in that, right, kismet, right? It was meant to be.
There we go.
Serendipitous, right?
It's
a beautiful story, even though you feel, embarrassed by it.
Yeah, that's right. So Ubuntu is about helping our clients connect with intention to help make the world better for them and their business having been here. So we want our business clients to connect with their prospects, and their prospects are often other businesses. So I could, of course, wax lyrical for, the next hour and a half on that. Please stop me, interrupt, and maybe ask some other questions around that.
Absolutely. We're going to have a conversation, but I really wanted to give you time to tell the story, to make that connection so that people understand, right? This podcast is called Disrupt and Innovate. Many of our conversations are designed to shake people up, right? And to challenge, right? The idea for me is always challenging the status quo to make a positive impact. And what you're talking about, for me, drives that innovation so beautifully, because it is, in many ways, slowing down the disruption to focus on the people first connection. And that is disruptive in our social media driven age. And the handwritten component, the care, the detail, what you're curating in these customer journeys and these experiences are the things that really matter. Businesses who understand what you're talking about, who implement and use these ideas, are the businesses that will create legacy. And so I really love that we had the time to kind of go through the whole thing. When you were talking through the experiential education component, I actually had a flashback memory of my childhood and my age range at that point in time, where we did at school similar things. It was part of the curriculum. It would have been grade 9 being led by year 12 students with faculty, but it was right going through that experience of that idea of who am I, who are we.
Yep.
It's such an important age to have those experiences, to stop and think, because we are sort of wired to lead with our ego at that point, right? That's where what we're doing. And to take that pause, I really appreciate, I know we've talked about it before, but what you did with kids in that weird, awkward teenage range where they are all just sort of a hot mess, no matter how you want to look at it. Let's throw in their age, their hormones, their ego. It's a lot. And if you taking that time and also understanding and pulling those 3 questions forward into the fact that getting all of this right as businesses and leaders, founders, however, we're showing up, it's the foundation for legacy.
Yes.
And none of this that you're talking about has anything to do with the latest, greatest technology. Social media certainly isn't part of this equation. Yeah. It's real human connection.
Yeah.
So I just pontificated on what I think is meaningful to you, but why do you think right now that this is so important, and for businesses and owners, leaders, founders?
So, and to finish that thought, Lisa, those 3 questions we've essentially picked up out of, my life experience, and we've laid over the top of the Ubuntu work. So we're now asking the questions of our corporate clients or our business clients. If you were the client, it's Lisa, who the heck are you? I'm a mortgage broker. Oh, for goodness sake, wake me up when it's over. Like, really? How about if you are a facilitator of wealth for middle-aged women who've suffered divorce? And that's a real example of a client. Like that tagline alone, that new thinking, that innovative way of expressing who they are. I've sent her 3 referrals in a week of us changing that thinking for her. She still does mortgage broking, but she's facilitating something for her client. So who are you? Who are we, and what is the legacy that we want to leave as business people, are the same questions we were asking young adults for 20 odd years. So thanks for making that connection. And now that I've satisfied my my need for answering that or finishing that thought, I've forgotten your question.
So building, right, as you've created and you are creating the interactions, the experiences that you are, why is it so impactful right now?
Yeah, great question. So if you were to summarize the language of 2023, you would hear things like ChatGPT, AI, scrolls, feeds, email, social media, likes, hacks, and we could go on for an hour around the words that are preeminent in 2023 in business. And what has happened during 2023 is that AI-driven communication has amplified. And everybody, in inverted commas, everybody's excited about it. But here's the thing. If we keep amplifying that communication because we can push a button and create as much content as we like, we can, fill every server on the planet with content. The question ultimately becomes, who the heck is listening? And until the day we have AI or bots or however it's going to work making spending decisions, what we've got at the moment is an amplification of noise that I'm going to assert none of us, and if it's not none of us, it's very few of us, are keeping up with. So now we've got content being created by bots. I'm thinking LinkedIn at the moment, Lisa. We've got serious expertise in LinkedIn. So you create content with ChatGPT, you put it into a LinkedIn post or a newsletter or whatever it is that you're going to do. Now we've got bots responding to, or AI responding to that content. Human beings are they're engaged, but they're not fully immersed in the content. So what's the point? And if you scale that up, we've got vast amounts of content being responded to by vast amounts of automation and bots. Who cares? So I had an experience during 2023, Lisa, and this is to answer your question. I was sitting on a train in Sydney, Australia, and I was preparing a 22-minute webinar for a series of webinars that we implemented around significance. What makes special so special and significance? And as I was sitting there, you have no idea how hard it is to prepare a 22-minute webinar. An hour webinar is easy. 22 minutes. Why 22 minutes? Because anybody can do an hour webinar or a 45-minute webinar. We want it to be different. And as I'm sitting there preparing this series of webinars for 22 minutes, on the topic of significance, across my mobile phone screen came a message. And the message was from Seth Godin, who sends out his daily messages. And it was announcing the release of his new book, The Song of Significance. And I had tears rolling down my cheeks as I said to myself, how delightful is it that Seth Godin is listening to us? Now, Seth's not listening to us. What's happening on the on the planet is that work is not working. Yeah. And so often communication is not working. So in our opinion, what we need to do is innovate around business to business communication, make it meaningful, give it the chance to connect, tell stories that matter to people who care in ways that resonate. Because while ever human beings are making spending decisions, I think that's the way to go. So we're in this space now where Web 3.0 is being talked about all over the place. That's the Internet of Things and AI and all the stuff that we all know about, which is great. So we can have Web 3.0, but what's the point? In my opinion, the point is that all of that tech, which is mesmerizingly clever, if it's focused on allowing us to show up as more human, then we're on a winner. More generosity, more tolerance, more engagement, more sympathy, more empathy, all of those human qualities that actually make living on this planet delightful and worthwhile, then we're on a winner. And so right now, all you have to do is to turn on the news. And if you tune in, you're in strife, you're in trouble because there's so much darkness. The Ubuntu team are on about creating that brightness of the future built around helping purpose-driven businesses add the value that they have to add. The impact that they seek is what's important.
The beautiful thing in everything that you're describing and how you see the possibility of the future and how you see the possibility of human connection driving impact, driving significance, creating legacy, right, is counterintuitive to the trend. You've already walked through the whole Web 3.0, what we're doing with AI and bots and all of these things that just keep creating, I think you even said the word noise, right? It's getting louder. It's not getting more meaningful. And the power of finding elegance and simplicity, a human to human interaction. You talked about it earlier, but right, actually a piece of mail that has thickness to the paper, a wax seal, a tactile experience that connects with a human being on an emotional level.
Yes.
For most people, we've never received a piece of mail that looks or feels that way. The closest thing that most people would have experienced is probably an invitation to a wedding. I think in common society, that's that one piece of mail that will pop in that sort of starts to hint at what you're actually creating. And it is just a hint that the innovation in all of this is not technology forward. It's stepping away from technology and curating connection.
Beautiful. I'm going to snip that out of this conversation, and I'm going to put that on a website or on my business card or something. Yes. And I love your language around it's elegant, it's simple, it's curated, it's a little bit slower, but it's meaningful. It's real. You can pick it up. You can turn it upside down. You can leave it on your mantelpiece or your shelf, and it has endurance with it as well. And here's the interesting thing, Lisa. Well, I find it interesting. And of course, I love this statistic because it suits me. At the end of 2022 and the first part of 2023, the three fastest growing channels to market for business in the US, advertising on TikTok, it came up number one. Advertising on gaming platforms came in at number two. And the third fastest growing channel to market, which has grown from 1.3%, I think the figure was, to 2.6 or 2.8% of the national spend, direct mail. And that trend around direct mail is on an upward trend. And part of the reason is that none of us are keeping up with the digital noise. And here's the point, Lisa. You might not know the answer to this, but how many unopened emails do you have in your email inbox? I've got thousands, and most people I speak to have thousands.
Yeah, I couldn't give you a number because if it's noise, it's gone. I don't even see it. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I was speaking recently with a prospect and I said, Jackson, how many unopened emails do you have? And he said, let me look. He said, 25,000, but that's typical. So if we are just one of those, I describe it like this, Lisa. If I'm standing on the beach on the east coast of Australia on a windy Sunday afternoon with a nor'easter blowing, then there are white caps everywhere. Which one are you? How do you stand out? How do you stand out in the crowd? And I'm compelled to share a story around this handwritten piece. This is somewhat commercial in confidence here in Australia, but for the American audience, it's not going to matter so much. So we have a client. Our client is a loyalty platform expert, and he wanted the attention of not Walmart, not the equivalent of Walmart, but the series of, or the genre of construction supply companies below whatever your largest supplier is. Is Walmart a construction in timber and lumber?
Or Home Depot or Lowe's.
Home Depot, thank you. Okay, so Home Depot. So think the next tier down. He wanted to compete, with Home Depot, the Australian equivalent. And Home Depot here is called Bunnings. That's our equivalent. And Bunnings have this reputation for every Saturday and Sunday they put on a sausage sizzle. So, a sausage in a bun, like a hot dog sizzle, sauce and onion and all of the rest of it. And it's a fundraiser. That's their contribution. So we created a physical piece of mail in the shape of a sausage sandwich, which is a piece of bread with a sausage in it with sauce and onions on it. And we put it in an envelope, and the wax seal, it was all handwritten, and the wax seal was the color of tomato sauce, ketchup. And we posted those to 60 construction supply companies in Australia, simply to say, loyalty is not a sausage sizzle. The second largest company in Australia made contact with us to say that is clever. We got 3 of their seniors to the boardroom table for a conversation that only happened 2 or 3 weeks ago. They're ready to have a very serious conversation with us. And I tell that story because if we had sent them an email, we would not have got their attention. Yeah. If we had called them, we would not have got their attention. But by sending them something clever in the mail by registered post, and there was a second piece that we sent them in the mail to build the story, we got their attention. So our work is about interrupting patterns of attention of busy, distracted business people. And there's an example of where it's worked in 2023.
And where it worked quickly. So you were hinting at, right, the traditional outreach campaign today electronically is, a handful of emails and fingers crossed that on the, the 10th or 11th one, right, somebody might actually respond, right? And nobody would in this context because that would be going straight through their spam filter. But the pattern interruption, and I think that's an important phrase, you've used it twice. I want to just really call it out, right? We are changing the way and interrupting patterns of behavior with these designs.
Physical mail.
Thank you. Physical mail. Why was that so hard for me to say?
I don't know. It's okay.
But visually it's appealing, it's tactile, and it breaks up the normal routine of, and everybody close your eyes for 2 seconds. And when you get the stack of mail, what do? Throw it away, throw it away, throw it away, throw it away. Stop, look, feel, think. You've changed everything in that one instant.
Yes.
With the work that you're doing, the impact that you're making for your clients to their clients, because that's really ultimately who's being impacted here. It is about the customer's customer being at the center of the universe, getting their journey, their experience. Are there roadblocks that you're facing? Are there challenges?
You're in the innovation space. You're in the pattern interrupt space yourself. So yes, of course, there's roadblocks. And the roadblocks are, like if I think about, we have an expression internally here, we say that we eat our own dog food. And what I mean by that is that we use our own systems for getting the attention of our prospects and people that we want to do business with and impact. And so one of the barriers that we come up against is the assumption that physical mail is dead. It just so happens it's the quietest channel to market where you can whisper and still be heard. And it's laser targeted. And you just described, Lisa, what happens. I have a thought. I'd like to express that to the market. So I'll create one email and I'll send 20,000 of them. There's another one of the 25,000 in my prospect's mailbox, inbox that's not opened. So it's pay, spray, and pray. That's the strategy. Our strategy is countercultural. It's laser targeted. It's personalized, it's physical mail combined with email and LinkedIn messaging and phone and text. And it's I don't want to over exaggerate. Can you over exaggerate? Don't know. I think that's
we can
I don't want to exaggerate the instant impact of this. This is hard work. To get people's attention is really, really difficult when there's so much noise. So the barrier is skepticism around the fact that this will actually work. And if our clients, once we have a client, if they don't put the work in to nurture the connection, to nurture the conversation, to take the energy that we create in getting them to the front door of their business, if they don't take them through the front gate or through the front door and have them, rushing to buy, we're not selling their TV. We're just bringing them to the front door or to the front gate. So the barriers, assumptions that physical mail is dead. It's not. Assumptions that, Greg and the Ubuntu team are going to make a whole bunch of sales for us. That is not the case. It is not up to us to sell your TV. And the assumption that bot to bot, B2B, digital social media communication is the only option that we've now got. Google AdWords and SEO. And I've heard so many stories in the last 12 months, Lisa, of SEO and Google AdWords businesses that are really struggling because they're not getting the cut through anymore. The only people doing any good out of Google AdWords, I think, often is Google.
And isn't that really how it was designed? Let's just be honest.
I think so.
Just gonna, that's my little snarky moment for today. One of the things that I don't want to lose track of, because I overstated and you recorrected, right? When all is said and done, your approach really is omni-channel. You are going and building an experience to get this marketing through with multiple touch points, the physical mail being the pattern interrupt, but it is absolutely supported by other channels. And it is important to acknowledge that it isn't magic that you put an envelope in the mail and sales happen here. It's part of a calculated strategy and a curated, well-designed experience for that marketing piece of the sales process.
Yes, and we do have a client, and she works with Red Bull. Red Bull's a brand in America, so a big international brand. She came to us as an artist, and she'd done a beautiful painting of a guy called Toby Price, who has won the Red Bull Fink River Classic, which is the motorbike desert race here in Australia. He won it in 2021 and 2022. So she did this beautiful portrait of Toby Price sitting in his garage, surrounded by all of his Red Bull helmets and, clothing and vehicle and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And she said to us, Greg, I'd like that painting to hang in the headquarters of Red Bull in Sydney. And we went, oh, did you get Toby's permission to do the painting? She said, yes, he's my neighbor. That was easy. I said, oh, okay, great. Did you get Red Bull's permission to do the painting? And she said, oh, no, I didn't think of that. Okay, this is going to be a difficult play then. Carla is her name. All right, let's have a go. So we printed 25 oversized cards with the image of that painting, and it is a beautiful painting, very cleverly done. Our data team, and this might be helpful for your listeners, carefully curated creative is something that we're good at, but we've also got a data team and a call team, all here in Australia, but we operate all around the world. So the data team found the names of 25 of the seniors at Red Bull in Sydney. And we posted on one day 25 of these handwritten, wax sealed, beautifully designed, branded to Carla the artist pieces of mail. But we put my creative director's phone number on the back, not Carla's. A week later, we got a phone call, and it was, hi, it's Kurt here. Can I speak to Carla? And my Andy, who'd answered the phone, my creative director, said, oh, who's calling? And he said, it's Kurt here, managing director of motorsport marketing for Red Bull. And Andy said, no, Carla doesn't take calls from marketing people, sorry, but I'll speak with you. And Kurt, the managing director of marketing at Red Bull Motorsport, goes, what did you send me this mail? And Andy said, well, it might have been. What's on the mail? Oh, this painting. And Andy said, yeah, that was us. And he said, well, why did you send it? Andy didn't answer. Did you hear me? Andy said, yep. Kurt said, but, oh, no, I'm calling you. Andy said, that's right. So we've got the attention of, let's say, one of the C-suite members, I might be exaggerating that, but a senior member of the Red Bull team that led to 2 meetings with the seniors at Red Bull, and the painting was never sold. So why? For a whole bunch of political reasons, as it turns out. So my point is that we interrupted the pattern of work for the members of that office at Red Bull headquarters in Sydney. And this Kurt said, Andy, do you know what happened in the office the day that those cards arrived? And Andy said, no, what? He said, it was like a gopher show. Did you get one? Did you get one? Did you get one? What did yours say? How come yours is different to mine? What? So there was this energy created in we'll say in the boardroom or in the office by that piece of mail. So phone calls, email, getting attention.
And the purpose of the campaign, first purpose, is attention. You can't control what actually happens. So that is a great story. I would have paid money to have seen his face when he realized that by placing the call, yeah.
And it's about positioning too, Lee. It's about positioning. We didn't want to sell anything right at the get-go. We simply wanted to begin a conversation. And it turns out that the prospect started the conversation. It's brilliant.
It is absolutely brilliant. Greg, for our listeners, we have covered a tremendous amount of things today, and really focusing in on the point of all of this is making that impact, the connection with intention. I'll even just put your tagline back in there for the listeners who aren't seeing it in the screen, right? Connection with intention, building the legacy, creating significance, and how disruptive and innovative that is in such a digital world, and how that pattern interruption can change the quality of the interactions we have with prospects. Thank you for sharing all of that perspective. If we have viewers or listeners who want to learn more, what is the easiest way for them to find you?
Thank you for asking that question. So to be really clear, we have distributors in the US, so we do operate in the US. And to get a summary around what Ubuntu is about, because if you're seeing this, there's two brands on the wall behind me. There's Ubuntu, Connection with Intention, and Powered by Send Handwritten. So both of those businesses operate in the US, but we've got distributors there. So the best way to be in contact with me is either via LinkedIn, and it's Greg Smith. So that could be a little bit tricky to find, but I think it's Greg Smith and probably Gold Coast here in Australia, or by email. And the email is very simple. It's Greg, Greg, at Ubuntu, BUNTU.com.au.
And for the audience, those will be in the show notes, so it's easy for you to see and collect and gather. Greg, thank you so much for your time, the conversation. It is highly impactful and so, right, I think hopefully it was a pattern interrupt for my audience to slow things down, to think from a very different perspective, but still very tied to everything that we're talking about. Having the customer at the center of our business universe is how we actually create an experience that will help our businesses grow and scale. For my audience members out there, you know my rules. Don't get left behind. Join me next time.
That's it for today's episode of Disrupt and Innovate. Head over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Every single week, one lucky listener that posts a review on iTunes will win the grand prize drawing, a $15,000 private VIP day with Lisa Levy. And be sure to head over to disruptandinnovate.com and get your free copy of Lisa's gift. And join us on our next episode.